right, but there was a woman who needed him right then and right now. He stopped and he took care of her need. So as he moves with dispatch to his destiny, we watch as he heals the blind on the way. We watch as he liberated those whose spirit were caught up in the demonics along the way. We watch as he brought fresh hope to dying men and women on the way. And this particular text, it says that he is moving along the borders between Samaria and Galilee. He is moving along the border now. We must stop and take a moment so that we can understand the gravity of history involved in this text. He moves along the border between two people who can't stand each other's guts. The Samaritans and the Jews had been estranged for several hundred years. You will recall in the 88 and before in 8 BC, the northern kingdom, already known for its apostasy and its wickedness, had fallen captive to the mighty juggernaut of the Assyrian army. The southern kingdom, 700 years later, would also fall to Assyria. But the Jews in the southern kingdom had a peeved against their northern cousins. They believed that their northern cousins, who were known as Samaritans, had been all too willing to fraternize with those who were enemy of the faith. That they had been too willing to put on foreign clothes, too willing to act like other folk, too willing to adopt the customs and culture of these alien invaders. The Jews never forgive the Samaritans for the fact that they were willing to give up their noble history, their background, their culture, their custom, the law that had been taught to them by Moses, simply so they could saddle up to a conquering people. It's because of that this hatred developed between the two. And it was give as well as it was get. The Samaritans also hated the Jews. So much so that you remember that story in the Gospel according to St. John's, where Jesus said, I must needs go through Samaria. Remember now, the Jews had already determined that they would not go in Samaria to rub shoulders with their cousins. So they brought a path that took them several days around Samaria, simply so they would not have to rub shoulders with their hated first cousins. There on the border, Jesus is walking along, and it strikes me as fascinating how God does some of his best work on the border, where margins meet. The margins of Samaria and the margins of the Jews. And in the believers where culture could come together, and Jesus is walking along in no man's land, and nobody quite own it. They're still fighting over it right now. And everybody wants to claim it. But here we see Jesus walking along the margin of the borders of this country. Have you ever been in no man's land? Have you ever been a place where you didn't know why you were there? Or what made you go there? Have you ever been to a place where you're in life where you felt that you were all alone? So Jesus moves along the border. This indeterminately area where the margins met. And I have come to find out in my life, my brothers and sisters, that God does some of the best and greatest ministry on the margins. where there's little resources and where people are unable to set their own destiny. In fact, it seems to me that when we look back over our lives, if the truth be told, many of us here this morning could testify that God met us at the borders. God met us halted between two opinions. God met us in no man's land. We may think we are all that. And I know some of us act as if we are all that. Oh yes, we have gained some ground, but we have not arrived yet. There's still some land to be possessed. We are not in the kingdom yet. Some of us think we're already in the kingdom. We are striving for the kingdom. Oh, we're not there yet. There's still some borders. There's still some things we must do on our way from earth to glory. There on the margin, Jesus finds an interesting group of marginalized people. It's amazing how God's theology shows